Welcome to the Divine Purpose Podcast, where we transport you along one of the more dynamic journeys of life. Have you ever been curious to know what it takes to become a successful leader? Or about knowing the secrets of life through the Bible? How about engaging in conversation where no topics are off limits? We will take you to new levels with guests who can help you grasp the importance of your calling. Now, here's your host, Eddy Dacius, founder of Dacius Facilities Management.
Hey everybody, this is Eddy Dacius. We have our 8th episode today. This episode is brought to you by Dacius Facilities Management. Dacius Facilities Management, they will manage your property with a variety of services such as cleaning, maintenance, and project management. Call them now at 617-237-0106 or go online at daciusfm.com. So we have a great guest for you today. She is a physical therapist. Her name is Samirna Esteve. Samirna Esteve, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Eddy.
Thank you for coming. And so the way you probably know that now. So the way we like to start the show is to try to know who you are. Can you tell us more about you?
Okay. Well, I was born in Haiti, and I moved to America when I was about 4 years old with my mother. The reason why we moved was my father passed away, and my mother found it difficult to be in Haiti. So me and my brother and my mom moved to Maryland, Silver Spring, Maryland, where we were raised in Silver Spring, Maryland, did our schooling in high school and further studies. After my mom passed away, she passed away when she was young. It was just me and my brother, and currently it still is me and my brother. We both decided to pursue our careers, and I decided to continue and do physical therapy, which is what I am now. And I stayed in Maryland. I love Maryland. I currently live in Rockville, Maryland, which is not too far from Silver Spring. But I work in Silver Spring, so I'm such a homebody. I stay close to where I was raised.
Wow. Is there a reason why? Is it because you like Maryland? I just hear you say you like Maryland, but
I do.
Small.
I mean, I love Maryland. I went to University of Maryland for undergrad, and then for graduate school, I went to Hampton University, which is in Virginia, which is near Virginia Beach, and I didn't realize that Maryland was spoiling me until I went to another state and lived there for 3 years. It was being by the water, being by just everything that just seemed so difficult in Virginia. Okay. And I think I was just so I don't want to be there. I want to be in Maryland. Now I'm scared to try other states. So I'll visit other states, but I don't think I can live there. I think I need a huge change or shift that would push me to move there. But
so what's so special about Maryland?
I think I like the conveniency. There's this in Maryland, you have a lot of variety where you can have the rural, you can have the city, you have a lot of access to everything, and there's a lot more young people. It's not necessary to have a car. And when I was in graduate school, I didn't have a car, but it was absolutely necessary. And I had to find a way to get, first I was walking to PT school, but then after the second year, I had to, get a vehicle and stuff. And it was just, I don't like things that you have to drive a lot to get to places. And I feel that's what Virginia is. And maybe that's just because, that was just because I was in Hampton and whatnot. And I don't think I found a lot of diversity where I was at, but that might have just been because obviously I was in school, so I wasn't out here searching. But I just find that Maryland, you're just able to. There's just a lot more culture.
Okay.
So because we're close to DC, so you can get that DC life without being in the DC craziness, but also there's a peaceful side. Where I live now is very peaceful. And I like having my peace, and I also like being able to access crazy. So I just love
So on your free time, what do you do in Maryland? Do you stay
Um,
home or do you go out?
well, before COVID,
Okay, yeah.
before COVID, I love museums. I love going to DC for museums. That's my like thing, and shopping, of course. And I just like to do a lot of exhibitions. And now, actually, since COVID, because you're just so bored at the house, and I'm obviously always working, and I feel like I can do movies. But I've just been trying to do more activities like hiking. I did kayaking, and like museums. I think I can say museums nonstop because that's my favorite thing to do, and just sightseeing, eating. I love to see different restaurants and how they just have different ways of making food and stuff.
No, makes sense. Makes sense. And I think when you spend time at museum, there's a lot of like history you can learn if you like to read or you like art. That's probably the place to go.
That's correct.
No, definitely. So let's go to your high school. So can you take us there? What was your journey?
I mean, I went to a pretty good high school. I think I lived in Montgomery County, and Montgomery County is one of the best counties in Maryland for education. So I feel like my training really prepared me for college, both undergrad and graduate. I went to Bethesda Chevy Chase High School, which is obviously in Bethesda, and that's where a lot of like affluent citizens live. I lived in Silver Spring, but Bethesda is just a pretty affluent city, and it has a lot of important people pass through it. Like I know, like when the Obamas have passed through it, people are aware of that, and a lot of senators live there. Senators' kids go to that school, so I mean it's pretty rigorous, and I think being in that kind of well organized education system just allowed me to step forward in my education.
So were you in high school being like I don't know if you play any sport? Were you involved in sport at all?
No, I wasn't. I was boring in high school. I was focused on trying to get good grades because of my culture. Caribbeans, you need A's.
Let's go deep on this. I know because I know Haitian. They don't play. Haitian
They
parents.
don't play.
Okay, so can you give us more
I
details
mean,
so they can understand?
so I mean, it's just very strict. Education is considered life for Haitians and for Caribbean household. You need to do well in school. If a B doesn't cut it, a C, don't even talk about C. I remember getting my first C in high school, and I cried. I was crying profusely, like somebody had hit me, because I was just in a background where I need to do well, 3.5 and above, and that's it. And if you don't do it, like, what are you in school for? Why are you even, going there if you're not getting to get good grades? And that was just stuck in my mind. So that kind of limited my social life, because it was like if you were to hang out with friends, it would limit your focus, or it'd be a distraction. It's considered a distraction. So I didn't do sports. Not that I really wanted to. I wasn't yearning to be a soccer player or anything, although I do enjoy watching it. But I did yearn to hang out with my friends. And I think in high school, like through 9th grade through 11th grade, it was just school. Like I wasn't doing anything. I mean, I did make friends, but I wasn't hanging out with them because I would go straight home after school. It would be school, home, and then the church on the Saturdays. So then in the 11th or 12th, in the 12th grade, where in 11th grade, that's when you figure out we're going into schools, or 12th grade, you're figuring out that okay, you've made your GPA. I think that's when my mom decided to be more, ease up, to be like, oh, okay, she's got her A's. I did only end up getting that one C. After crying, I never got another C. My whole career of high school, I did pretty well because of that. But I do want to say that that did keep me really sheltered and keep me not aware of just regular things that people should know at a high school age, just hanging out with friends, knowing, basic, I don't know, social skills, I guess, because I was so into school. I yearned to be a nerd, and I always wanted to be a nerd, honestly. But that, yeah. Then once
my question is, what was your motivation to do well at school? Was it your parents or was it your personal goal?
No, it was my mom. She was in my ear. Are you kidding me? She was in my ear every morning telling me, you need to do well, you need to do well. And I think, being in a single parent household, it's like she can only rely on you doing well. It's like you don't have the luxury of other students, because many of the students have two-parent households. They have the ability to watch over you and pick you up from school if you wanted to do an after-school activity. But my mom was working full-time, 2 kids, so it's like you don't want to be a stressor. I didn't want to be a stressor to my mom, so I did try to do well, which is what I did. And I mean, that was mainly it, because I really wanted to try to not be a burden. And I mean, I wanted to do well for myself, but it wasn't the same as trying to make sure my mom wasn't yelling at me. And so, yeah, I think.
No, thank you for sharing this. But let's take it to another level, where college now. So you finish high school with good grades. So what was your choice for college?
So in college, I went to University of Maryland, which is close to home. So the biggest thing about why I chose University of Maryland was because of money. So I ended up getting a full ride to University of Maryland, and so that was the reason I kind of went. And I stayed on campus, which also was free, but it allowed me to have some time away from my mom. But my mom ended up getting sick, and during my schooling, she ended up passing away. And that was, that was sophomore year. And it was really difficult. I didn't get C's. I did get like straight B's. Wow, okay. And it was just a tough time. The thing is, it wasn't like sudden. It was a sickness we all knew about and we were praying about to get healed. But cancer doesn't show mercy sometimes.
Okay.
And so that was just something that really affected me during school. But it also pushed me, because I wanted to continue to make her proud and make sure that I finished school. Because first of all, like if I were to go out, drop out, or take a semester off, I wouldn't go back.
Okay.
Like my thing is, you go in and you do it, and that's the reason why even after college, like I just kept going to go into graduate, because many times people take a year off, and that's great, and that's into everyone's decision making. But for me personally, like I need to just keep going and finish it, and then figure out how I want to play it from there. But the college, after that difficult time, it was tough. But it was tough because it just required studying, not because like I felt like I couldn't study, not because I felt like I didn't know what to do. I knew I had to study. I knew if something was hard to study, I know how to ask the teacher for help. I was very assertive in that. Many times students just let themselves struggle, and I hate to struggle. I don't like to struggle. I like to make sure I seek out resources, and that's what I did. And every time I had trouble, seeked out resources and found a way to resolve it. During Maryland, what did I do? I did a lot of volunteer work, because that was required to get into PT school. So I volunteered in the hospital. I did tutoring, end of junior year for the football and athletes. And I did ambassador for the School of Health for 2 years. So I kept myself pretty active within the school, and still kept my grades up, and then eventually began my process to applying to PT school.
Okay.
And then that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my question would be now. So any advice can you advise any student to stay focused while they're in college? Is it can you manage party, or you have to be focused all the
Uh,
time? Or any advice for them?
I think, like I said, I went to a pretty good high school, and work ethic was something really ingrained in me. You have to know yourself, but it's so hard because in college you're learning about yourself too. But if you're trying to reach a high GPA average, your first year is going to tell you a lot. It's going to tell you how your other years are going to go. Because if you don't take a handle of how your first years go, then you'll really struggle. So you want to be focused. The first year you're meeting a lot of friends, and it's important to meet those friends. I don't think it's important. I don't think it's good to be like, oh, I'm going to go in there and just do my books and go home. Like, no, you need to make friends and know what these friends are for. I categorize these friends. So I know some people don't do that, but it's important to know how your friends are. You have friends that will help be able to be your study partner. And there's friends that they cannot be your study partner because they keep you distracted. And you have to be aware of that, because if they're going to distract you while you're studying, you are not going to do well for that exam the next day. If you're able to stay focused with friends, that's great. If you have friends that are just for social events, you should do that. But manage your time. It's awesome thing. It's a learning curve for it. You are going to learn it as you go, but be aware of it, because you have to know that your grades matter, but it also depends on, like, if you're trying to do physical therapy, your grades will consistently matter. Okay, so it's not like if you do bad in biology semester 1, like, and when I say bad, you're getting a C. Now that's bad. C's get degrees. Let's not think about that. Let's just always aim for an A, because it's physical therapy school is highly competitive. It's more competitive than med schools, because it's so small of a class, and you don't want to risk your chances. And even people that do 4.0s or get 4.0s don't even get into PT school, because it's just so competitive. So you want to be a well-rounded student is the number one thing. But your first year, you need to be focusing on getting those good grades. You need to be focusing on getting your worth ethic. Not even the good grades part, but knowing a system on, like, okay, how do I study? Is it by writing those notes down? Is it by making an outline? Is it by reaching it out? Like, do I have a system of how to study? Because if you don't have that down, it's gonna show, and it's gonna hurt you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have you take a moment to go deeper. We like to go deeper on the topic. So you said college. When you were in college, that's an opportunity to learn yourself. So what did you learn about yourself in college?
I learned that I'm a visual learner. I learned that I have to write things down by hand. Many times
Yeah, go ahead.
How did I learn that? How did I know that?
Yeah.
Because in college, everything is through PowerPoint. Everything is on the screen. They're like, okay, pull it up on your computer. And I tried that. I brought my laptop. I was typing, and I would come back to it, and I'd be like, I don't know what I just learned. I have no idea. I don't know why. Like, I was in the class, and I just didn't understand why. I'm looking at the teacher, I'm listening to it, but it doesn't click. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe it's because I'm on a computer. I get distracted by going on Facebook. I don't know. So I decided to print the PowerPoints and take notes on the PowerPoints with my hand. And then after, I was like, you know what? That helps me. And then after I handwritten it, I would type it on the computer. And that would be my system. It was a very lengthy process. But every time you write it, every time it works. And that helped me and it also helped me realize that if I wrote it down and then typed it, I was like, I don't understand what I'm typing. So then I was able to go back and investigate why I wrote something down, because I'm, constantly reviewing what's going on in the class, constantly do it. But when I only look at the computer, all I'm doing is staring at it. I'm not like, it's just not my learning style. I have to write it down, tactile, kinesthetic learning is not the learning style. But I realized I have to always print it out for me to learn and make outlines. Anytime there was an exam, I would type up, a study guide and help me do that. And that works. I mean, and it obviously, if something was difficult, it's just difficult. But I was never shy about going to the teachers. Like, I need help. So definitely chemistry was one. I went to their office hours. Physics I took over the summer, which was really, really hard. But use their office hours. I think they appreciate that. I think teachers appreciate it when you come to them. Or I've been really lucky to have teachers that have been really helpful for me. And that's also a good way to, have people write you recommendations if you are able to be very communicative with your teachers. Especially, I don't think of recommendations only with teachers that I do straight A's in, but even classes that I struggled with and ended up still doing well. I think those are the best representations of my character. So I use those teachers too for getting into PT school. But learning your learning style is also something.
No, and I think that's good insight. Thank you for sharing. So now, how long did it take you to realize that what you were doing in terms of going by the PowerPoint only didn't work? Did you fail on the class or did you fail an exam? So how did it happen?
It was, yeah, that's exactly it. It's like you thought you got it and you take the quiz, you take the exam, and I'm in a household. If I'm not getting an A, it's all bad. So I got less than an A, and I was like, why did I get less than an A? This class supposed to be easy. I'm like, did I not understand it? And when I look over what I got wrong, I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that. Oh, I didn't catch that. And I'm like, why didn't I catch that? Like, I don't understand. And I was like, let me try something else. So I always think about, if I'm getting a B, that means there's room to improve. There's something that I did that I didn't do that I should do, which is why I look for ways to improve. And then once I always see that if there's an improvement from the method, then I continue that method. And that's how I know. If you're seeing that it's working, then you need to continue it. Not every class is going to be able to work that method, but if it does, then you should just go for it and continue it. Because like I said, if it's less than an A, I need to figure out what I'm doing wrong.
No, thank you for sharing this. But now let's go to physical therapy. So, can you tell us what is physical therapy or PT?
Oh man, it's so complicated. Physical therapy it's about rehabilitation, restoration of the human body. It's about wellness and fitness of an individual into the community. It's about reducing fall risk and promoting the well-being of a person. If I want to put it, I like to put all those factors because physical therapy just is so flexible and it ranges from a variety of populations. So the main idea is restoration and rehabilitation, but the overall goal is the well-being of an individual is the goal through movement, through exercise, and that's how we get our treatments for those.
So what influenced you to be or to go to PT school?
Well, that was when my mother, in high school, when I was deciding to go to college, you're like, oh, what am I going to study? What am I going to do? So I knew I wanted to do something in the health field because I like helping people and I want to help the idea that I'm healing. I'm helping in the process of healing. I was thinking doctor would be too hard, even though I am a doctor in physical therapy, but a medical doctor. I was like, I'm not committed to those years of schooling, and I don't think I'm that smart. But realizing that PT school, you have to be really, really smart too.
Wow.
But my mother had given me a list of fields to look at in health field. And when I looked at physical therapy of like, one-on-one care, of exercise and moving and manual therapy and all these different things you could do, I was like, this seems really interesting. And you're not just stuck in one spot. Like you can go in different ways. I was like, okay, I kind of like this. And I like the idea that I don't have to stay in one setting. I can go and explore other settings. So that's when I was like, okay, that was in high school. I'm going to do physical therapy. And then I went on Google and I was like, how do I become a physical therapist? Is it just a school? At the time when I was applying to PT school, it was only a master's. So I was like, okay, that's 6 years of schooling. The undergraduate could be anything ranging from exercise science, kinesiology, from health science, and then you go to graduate master's. So that was my plan. I decided to do kinesiology, which is the study of human movement. And that's when I went to the University of Maryland. And then when I got to the University of Maryland, the physical therapy board took away all masters and it became a doctorate. But I was already on this path and I was like, oh my goodness. I was nervous at the fact that it changed to a doctorate because I was thinking like it's going to be even harder to get into, or the fact that it's extra school. But I didn't focus too much on it, but it did make me nervous. But I just wanted to do physical therapy.
Okay. So now you graduate and then, and I think you mentioned you did a lot of volunteer work, right? And
in undergrad.
What happened on your first job? Or was your confidence level?
After I became a PT or before I became a PT?
Take us there. So did you work in the field before you went to PT school, or after you graduated you got your first job as a physical therapist?
So what ends up happening to get into PT school, you have to work in the field. And I say work, it's just hours. I personally did not want to work in the PT because I didn't think that I would learn as much. As a worker, because you can become a physical therapy tech and work under a PT, getting a salary. I personally felt like I didn't want to do that because I wanted to learn. So I always did volunteers. I always offered services for free. So I was able to shadow more and ask more questions. Versus if I was working, I'd have to also be working. So I couldn't be asking as many questions. So personally, I chose not to work under and get my hours. But many people, many people work as a physical therapy tech, and then they use those hours to apply to PT school. And when you're in PT school, you also do clinical works. And that's really nerve-wracking because, they introduce you as a student physical therapist. You're already nervous that the patient is nervous that they may not get good care, And so that was really interesting. But, there are some bad encounters. I know I personally didn't experience it. My classmates did, where they're like, I don't want to be treated by a student. No, I don't, so they just make a big deal, which I understand. Physical therapy is pricey. You want the best care. You want to make sure they have the credentials. After PT school, my first job, I knew after my clinicals that I wanted to work with geriatric population. So after PT school, I applied to a nursing home, and it was very, very stressful, if I would want to say that, because although you're coming out fresh out of school and you're like, you have your degree, you're a doctor, the weight that it holds, you don't know until you're in there. You don't know until you're in the job, until you are now the mini boss. You are now the supervisor of people. So when I went to my first job, I had about 4 physical therapy assistants under me. And
wow.
it was a lot because you're a new grad, but that doesn't matter. Like, it matters because they'll pay you less, but the work doesn't change. So like, you still need to be on top of it, and you still need to be able to direct your therapist assistants to say, you know, this needs to happen with this person, or you're doing a great job, continue. Like, you need to be asserting your authority. And for me, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot. Because you're just trying to be, I was just like, I just want to be a good therapist. I don't want to be worried about you. But you need to be worried about them because they're under your license. So therapy assistants are under PT license. They only can treat unless I've, you know, delegated the goals. And I've delegated, you know, what they're doing. So it's like, you need to be on top of it. So it's like, you either, you know, pull yourself together, or you suffer and drown. But after like maybe like 3 months of just like, what's going on? I did pull myself together and became strong. But it's fun though, because at the end of the day, you should want to be a physical therapist if you want to be a physical therapist, because you cannot avoid patient contact. You cannot avoid, you know, they can see it. People can feel how, if you want to be here, people can feel it just through nonverbals, just through how you act. Like, you have to really want the career. You have to really love it.
That's why we like to talk about it in this platform where DP Podcast is about how to embrace your calling. So for you, that was your choice and you embrace it. So now, what happens in the therapy session? Can you take us there? I work in geriatrics, so I'm going to give you my intake because it's in a nursing home. So when you're in a nursing home, what ends up happening is that you're coming from an injury. You either came from the hospital, from falling at home, you either had a hip replacement, you either had dehydration, anything that sent you to the hospital, you're now in a nursing home. And the reason why you're in a nursing home is because they feel like after the hospital, it's not safe for you to go back home. So you need to be in an area, the nursing home, get some strength to be strong enough to go home. So that's what my goal is, and I would be the one to clear it. So in a session, I would do the intake. My first thing would be the evaluation, asking about where they live, how many steps they have, who do you live with, you know, have you had therapy, you know, how are you feeling? Those are the intakes. And then we ask, you know, what are your goals? Do you have any goals? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I have goals for you. So we make the goals, or I make the goals. And then once we have that going, that's the evaluation. The next visit would be the session. So we working on the strengthening of the legs. You do exercises in seated, you do exercises in standing. You work on transfers, so being able to stand, being able to pivot independently and safely. Then you work on walking short distance, walking long distance, making sure you're avoiding obstacles, making sure your safety is there. Because if you have poor safety awareness, you're going to fall again, and you're going to come back to the hospital, and you're going to be like, why was this person sent home if they weren't ready? But sessions are typically, before, when I first started, sessions were like 55 to 75 minutes, which is really, really long. Now they're about 40 or 45 minutes, which is more appropriate. But sometimes you might need a longer session because you might have to monitor their vitals, blood pressure. You might have to, take longer rest breaks. But your whole treatment session is assessing, strengthening, and trying to make sure you stay focused on the goal of getting them home. So I'm sure you probably have this question when they say, why do I have to do these exercises? They are making me sore.
Always.
So what do you tell them?
I think it's funny because sometimes it's like many patients, they don't know why why they would do a certain exercise. Like one of the exercises, you're kicking your leg up and down, and you're like, why am I doing this? This is what children do, but really, this is what your muscle needs. There's only so many ways to strengthen the muscle. And when anytime people are like, why am I doing this? I was like, you're doing this so that you can go home. And I keep telling them, And like, once I know sometimes people don't like to do what I ask them, like especially if I'm checking their balance and I want them to catch a ball, that seems like a childish play. Catch this ball. And they're like, I don't even catch the ball, I'm not a kid. I was like, do this once, you do it perfectly, and you will never do it again. And they don't do it perfectly, so they do it again. So it's just about them understanding, like, I want you out of here as much as you want yourself out of here. But I won't let you out of here until you demonstrate that you're safe. And so if I continue to educate them on, I want you out here too. I want you to go home. Don't you want to go home? Then do these exercises. Don't you want to, not, have people all on your back? Then walk down this hall and let me see you do it great, so I don't have to worry about you. So I like to let them know. I number one thing I always do is educate the family member and the patient on why I do what I do, and to let them know, like, I know they hate being here and they're not home, but if they were home, they would come right back here because they're still not strong enough or they're still not safe enough. So the education matter is so important and stressed in my kind of intervention.
So you mentioned sometimes you ask them what's their goal, and they don't have it, and you say you have one. Why do you have to have a goal when you see
because that's the whole point of therapy.
Oh, okay. Can you expand on that?
So therapy is the reason why you have a skilled therapist and not a personal trainer, is because you have a goal to go home. Now, what's stopping you from going home? You're not strong enough to stand. You can't stand for 5 minutes. Then my goal is for you to stand for 5 minutes. You're not able to, walk to your room. Well, my goal is for you to walk 500 feet. So people don't just have those like goals written down. They just think, oh, I want to go home. That's my goal. Or like, I just want to be able to leave here. What's stopping you? We just go into those details of what in the body is impaired so that I can focus on. Because if there's nothing I can focus on, then you don't need therapy. You need a personal trainer if you just want to get fit and ripped. But it's just about, that's why therapy is. You need a goal for me to build your insurance.
And thank you for sharing all this, and I like what I'm hearing. So, but I think you had a chance you have options to choose between the flexibility that a PT have in terms of where they can work. So why a nursing home?
I just like my old people. I love geriatrics. I love, the stories that they can share. They're just filled with wisdom, and they're very heartwarming, I find. And for me, the other reason, I know I always say this to my friend, is that I'm always more sympathetic to people that have gone through life longer. And I find them, I treat them as if, I was raised in a church, so I'm filled with older individuals. I've been able to create bonds in a faster manner. So I find that building a repertoire with the geriatric population is easier. And that's why I go towards the nursing home, because that's where they are. Older people end up going to the nursing home more often than younger people, because, it takes longer to get the strength back. It takes longer to, get back to being safe at home. Versus a young person, say they do have a hip replacement, or that's really rare, but if they do have a hip replacement, the doctor tells them, hey, make sure you don't cross your legs, make sure you do this, make sure you walk every day. They're probably going to do that. You tell an 80-year-old, hey, make sure you don't cross your legs, make sure you walk every day. We don't really know if they're going to do that. So that's why that more geriatrics go to the nursing home. And that's why I chose the nursing home, because I'm going to find that population more often than at a outpatient clinic where that young person would go, 3 times a week to strengthen and whatnot, and they would be more compliant. Where a resident who really didn't want to do therapy today, and again, it's about education. Why am I doing therapy? Why am I here in their face, forcing them to walk, forcing them to strengthen? And I think the education matter is really important. So I think today, like somebody, she is extremely off balance, and she doesn't use any devices. She doesn't use a cane. She doesn't use a rollator. And originally, I had given her a cane last week, and I'm just not. It's not working. It's not providing enough support. So I gave her a rollator, like a
Yep.
fancier walker. And she was just, I don't understand why I have to use this. I don't understand how to use this. And I just kept telling her, your balance is just not here. And right now, my goal is to make your safety in the house. And this is going to do that. And I was like, this is not something forever, but it is something at this time. And then once she understood I was coming from, she became more compliant. Then we worked on balance activities. And I think knowing that we're working on trying to improve a current status helps them be more motivated. So when she started off being kind of resistant to therapy, she became more agreeable during the session. So that session turned out to be very, it was really well done, I think. And she enjoyed it. She would always say, thank you. And she would apologize, like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time, adjusting. And it's about the fact that, before they were not having to need that much help. They didn't feel like they could do it. And now somebody's telling them, like, no, you can't do it. It's tough hearing that. It's not easy to be, told that you can't do this, or you're not safe walking by yourself. Like, for someone to tell you that, it's not easy to hear.
Yep.
But it's my job as a health provider to tell you my recommendations and why I'm saying that you're not safe. So that's
thank you. That's some good insight. So now we have hot topic. So where we're gonna ask questions, so people don't usually have a chance to ask those questions. So I'm Haitian, but and that Haitian, they don't like nursing home, they don't like PT, they rather stay home than to stay at a nursing home. So what can you tell people? Why is it important to have a PT, especially when you get older?
Okay, so there's two. I'm going to break that question in two, because I completely understand them when they say they don't want to go to the nursing home, because although the therapy is great, you do want to leave that nursing home as quickly as possible. The nursing home is, it's not a welcoming environment. They don't want you to be there. It's not, you don't get immediate service sometimes. They're sometimes understaffed. So I can understand the frustration. You don't want to go to the nursing home, but that should even be like your driving force to going home, to doing your therapy, to doing what needs to be done to go home. So if the doctor says you want to go, if you need to be going to the nursing home after your hospital stay, go, and know that you must leave early. So you need to be compliant. Don't focus your energy on, I don't need therapy, I want to be home. Focus your energy on, what do I need to do to get home? That's where your energy needs to be. That's on the topic of whether when you're in the nursing home and doing your therapy. Do your therapy, go home. That is that. For those who maybe are at home and they need physical therapy, you may not need to go to the nursing home. There's physical therapy called home health. So physical therapists come to your house, and they do physical therapy there.
Okay.
And that is something to really consider, because many times you notice you're getting weak. You're noticing that you're falling, and you're thinking, I just tripped, or, I don't know why. That is something to be of concern. If you're having pain as well, pain in your back, oh, that's old age. Pain is not part of getting older. It's not. There's a reason for that pain.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Wow.
Pain is not part of the normal aging process. Weakness, getting weak, is part of the aging process, normal aging process. Being more unsteady, a little unsteady, that is part of the normal aging process. Visual, normal aging process. But just having pain, like my arms hurting all of a sudden, or my back, oh, ow, ow, I'm just old. No, there's a reason. So you want to make sure you pay attention to that. You want to make sure that, am I having pain, because of something else? Go see a doctor. Do I need therapy? Do I have arthritis? Do I have, a scoliosis? Do I have neuropathy? Am I diabetic? There are conditions that behind everything. And sometimes, like, it takes a couple of symptoms before somebody pays any attention to it. And by then it's just like, it's so much to recover. So really pay attention to your body, and be aware of what's normal and what's not for a normal aging process.
Well said. So now, second question now is, Haitian, they have medicinal or traditional medicine, and they call it as a médecin fait. So if somebody hurt their feet or anything, so they send it to like a traditional medicine. So can you compare therapy versus traditional medicine?
This is hard because I think you should do both. I think there are benefits in traditional medicine. I think there are benefits. I've been benefited from them myself. But you want to add to the strengthening. You want to really condition the body, because you might, that's why the reason I'm saying both, because internally, the tea might help with, antioxidants. Who knows? I think it's okay, but I think it's dangerous to be like, this is the only thing I'll do. I'm not going to strengthen my legs. I'm not going to do exercise 30 minutes a day. I think it's it's risky and a little naive to be like, this is the only way to treat my body. There is a whole system of how to treat your body. Just like physical therapy is only one aspect of healing somebody, the tea or the benefits of it is just only one aspect. So you need to be thinking in a holistic manner on how to treat your body. If you're going to do your teeth, go do your teeth, but do your exercise. You need to actually strengthen the muscle. You need to actually walk.
So I remember in Haiti, so I used to play soccer, and then something happened. I kind of tweaked my ankle, and then I didn't go to the hospital. My mom called somebody, and she had oil, and then massaged my feet, my ankle. The next day, I was okay. So, I know that's the way it's been done in Haiti, but as a PT, what would you recommend?
I mean, again, I would say that you can do that, but you still want to do your exercises. I don't think the thing is when you sprain your ankle, you want to rest and elevate. You want to ice. Massaging, you don't really want to massage something after you just hurt it. It's just too tender and it's too inflamed. You're moving the inflammation. You kind of want to wait it off. But if it helps, it might have helped for other reasons, and it just might be because you were young and it heals. But it's not something that to be your standard of practice. You really want to do the physiology behind why something hurts. If something is inflamed, elevate it and ice it. That's where you want to go is your go-to. If something is, weak, strengthen it and move it. That's where you still want to be doing the practical things, the physiological. But I will never say like, don't do what the traditional is, unless it's like an absolutely detrimental, like if you were to put, like let's put needles in the sprained ankle. And I don't think that's what traditional medicine does. Like they really do try to be, they have a reasoning for why they're doing it. As a therapist, I personally wouldn't have massaged your leg because it's too acute. So it's great that it helped, but you might get another sprain again, or that leg or that ankle might always still be weak because you never conditioned it, you never strengthened it.
Wow. Those are good information. So now let's go into the culture. So favorite Haitian food. Your favorite Haitian food.
My favorite Haitian food is diligencia. Is that how you say it? Black mushroom rice with fried plantains and pickles and legume. How do you say legume?
I just say legume.
It's just eggplant.
I don't know. Legume,
okay, it's legume. Okay, guys.
I call it the Haitian. I'm Haitian, so legume, dewey, sauce. So favorite fruit. So I don't know if you like mango.
Favorite fruit, watermelon, mango. Oh my gosh. You didn't tell me that. You're going to make me hungry. I want mango and watermelon. Is it just one? You're just telling me a bunch of fruit.
Tell me what you like.
I like fruit. I like mango and pineapple and watermelon.
Wow. No, those are the great fruit. So now the question I always ask. So, okay, yeah, you were born in Haiti and you grew up here. So how do you identify yourself? Is it Haitian, Black American? Or I don't know.
I put a Haitian American, because I was raised here and I did have to get naturalized as a citizen for United States. But every time I speak, I don't have an accent, and I have an accent if I were to speak Creole or French.
Yep.
But I'm still Haitian. It is what it is. But I am American as well, so I identify as both.
So what's the salary for a PT?
Oh man, it depends on the setting. The average salary is about $75,000 to $80,000. But it really does depend on the setting that you do.
So is it easier? So what's your goal? Like, what's your 5-year goal? If you want to share that.
Well, I'm already in 4 years, so we're adding on to 5 years of what I've already done. Well, my final goal would be to do the humanitarian work.
Okay.
I think it's easier because you have the doctorate in physical therapy, but it's also like you should also have a business part.
So final word for you?
Well, thank you for having me. I would just recommend everyone that is considering to do physical therapy is do some research, volunteer, really make sure you like what you're about to get yourself into, and just, work really hard to get good grades, find good mentors, find a place that you can learn, and also that you can really dig into physical therapy so you can really enjoy it, because it's a very, very, very fulfilling and rewarding field to be in.
Thank you for being with us, Doctor. We appreciate you, and hopefully we can have you soon for another episode.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yes, so that was Samirna Esteve. She's a PT. She worked as at a nursing home. She loved what she do, and she explained that the reason she went into to be a physical therapist is because she wanted to help people, to help our community. And this is our 8th episode. Thank you for staying with us. This is Eddy Dacius at the Divine Purpose Podcast. Stay tuned for another episode. See you guys soon. Thank you. Hey, thank you for watching the Divine Purpose Podcast on YouTube. For more streaming with interesting guests and premium content, subscribe now on DPPodcast Live.